Hi, my name is Harry Gill, and I did my report on private placement memorandum, term sheet, and due diligence. Private placement memorandum is a document which acts as a security document when a company is planning to sell shares of the company. This document is similar to a prospectus, but a private placement memorandum is only used for privately held companies. As well, a well-written private placement memorandum includes information the company, historical performance, future prospects, the terms to acquire the shares, the plan, what the company plans to do with the money, the risk of the investment, and make sure the information in the memorandum is accurate. The summary of the terms being offered explains what the company is asking for and what the investor will get in exchange for that capital. Once the private placement memorandum is presented to investors, the next document prepared is the term sheet. The term sheet is presented by the investor, and it outlines the investor's proposal to acquire a portion of the company based on the investor's term. A term sheet is similar to a letter of intent, a document used in the real estate world, and it is a non-binding document. The term sheet usually has three parts in the document. The three parts are funding, corporate governance, and liquidation. These three parts give the investor the ability to make decisions in the company and outline the economics of the company. In the valuation section of the term sheet, the investor has a pre-money valuation, post-money valuation, capitalization table, and price per share. Once the investor proposes these terms, the principal then has the opportunity to counter back and negotiate. Some common things that are negotiated are dilution and valuation, preference for liquidation, board of director arrangement, veto rights, founder vesting schedule, exclusivity clause, and legal fees. Once the private placement memorandum is created and the term sheet is negotiated, it is time for the investor begin their due diligence. Due diligence is when the investor looks over all the financial statements and other documents to help decide on if they want to move forward with this transaction or if they want to cut the deal. Due diligence is usually set for a certain period of time, and once the time is up, the investor has to make their decision. It is important that the investor has a team when completing the due diligence process so they can make the most of the time period. There are many things a team should do when they're performing their due diligence. One team member should go to the location and communicate with the employees working there and see how the workforce environment is doing. The investor should also diligently look over historical gross sales, the expenses, and check if the company verified all the information which was presented and the private placement memorandum is accurate and correct. This can also help the investor analyze where the company made mistakes and how they can capitalize on those missed opportunities. Another thing investors should look at during the due diligence process is whether the company has pending lawsuits or if there are any liens against their equipment. If there are any pending lawsuits or liens on the equipment, this could be a deal breaker because legal fees can become costly and an investor wouldn't want to deal with all that. Another thing to look at are profit margins. This is important because in order for an investor to make money, the company needs to have attractive profit margins. The investor should also look into the company's competitors. It's important to look into the company's competitors to see how they are performing versus the company. If the company's competitors are growing faster than the company itself, then it raises a question to the investor of why the company they are about to invest isn't performing as well as its competitors. The last thing the company should look into is the short-term and long-term risk they're going to acquire. They should run a SWOT analysis to see what the company's strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what the opportunities available are, and the threats the company can possibly face. In conclusion, when a company is looking for funding, it can be a long process and there can be a chance that they don't get the funding. The process starts off with the private placement memorandum, which usually is prepared by an investment banker or attorney. Then an investor presents their term sheet, which outlines the offering. From there, the principal of the company may accept the terms or they may present a counteroffer. Once the term sheet is executed, the investor begins to do their due diligence to make sure everything and the investment is feasible and fits their vision of growth. If everything looks good, the investor becomes a shareholder in the company. Thank you.